And welcome back. Welcome back. We are live and direct here on YouTube and on a pirated radio station out in Texas. Thanks for being here, everyone. Much respect to those outside of America. And of course, all of you right here in America, much respect to you, especially those of you in the chat room right now. Thanks for being here. We have quite the terrific show just for you. Joining me tonight is an absolute legend. He's a fan favorite here on the program. He's earned the nickname, the Freight Train. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Jim Fetzer, live and direct and in the flesh. Jim, how are you?
Oh, Michael, it's been way too long.
Good Lord, it's been way too long, Jim. I'm so glad you're here. It's always an honor and pleasure. People have been wondering, where is Jim? Is Jim dead? Did they assassinate Jim?
Not yet.
My goodness, Jim. Again, it's an absolute pleasure to have you back on the program. There's a lot to discuss here tonight. Jim, I'm losing my mind. I can't even sleep at night now. I'm losing sleep.
Well, that's a very reasonable response to what's going on in the world. Joaquin Agopian, who's a brilliant guy, I publish a lot of his stuff, believes that these earthquakes, which are being carried out by HARP, the pipeline destruction of Nord Stream 1 and 2, and the threat of a nuclear Armageddon are indications that the deep state, the World Economic Order, the new reset are growing desperate, which I regard as a good thing. A lot of people seem to be becoming aware that the vax was not meant to benefit us. And would you believe there are even reports circulating the Department of Defense itself, our own Department of Defense, was instrumental in developing the mRNA vaccine?
I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. These are the sort of things that I expect here. And, Jim, going back to my dreams for a second here, they've been kind of apocalyptic. And I feel like we will be going to war soon. We are at the proverbial tipping point, and the false flags keep piling up. And 2023 has just begun, and the entire world is at a standstill right now. We've got the earthquakes, the UFOs, we've got spy balloons, and the Biden administration turning down Ohio's request for disaster assistance after the whole toxic derailment. And that's Joe Biden. He went out there. He basically said, yeah, sure, kiss my ass, Ohio. And that's our president, boys and girls.
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. And I'm quite convinced, and I've published several different blogs, that this is not the Joe Biden from Delaware.
That's what I was going to ask you again.
To have died in 2017, Michael. It's a substitute. There's even a British actor born in Manchester in 1947 who looks a hell of a lot like the guy we got here today.
Right.
So, I've got, if you go to jameshfetzer.org, scroll down about the 5th blog, you'll see just stunning evidence that this is not the same guy. Joe Biden had a very expressive face. He had a shit-eating grin that went from ear to ear. This guy has no expression, no smile. Joe had a larger skull. This guy had a smaller skull. They even have different handwriting. I mean, it's just not the same guy, and yet we're being played again and again and again, Michael.
Right. Some say that isn't the same Joe Biden that we once saw with Obama. This is a whole new guy.
It is.
That's
I have no doubt
Biden
whatsoever. 100%.
Yes, I'm looking at these photographs that you have here, and I do see the differences, the slight differences, and it does look like a different human being altogether.
Oh, I'm convinced. I've been long convinced. I was calling this out from the first debate with Donald Trump, that the Biden who showed up for the debate was not the original Joe. And I just can't understand how the Democrats can allow this kind of fraud to take place when it's not the first time. Hillary has used as many as 8 different body doubles, even in her debates with Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Believe it or not, that was not Hillary Clinton out there on the debate stage. It was a younger, healthier, much more attractive woman. I mean, it was unsurprising why they'd want her out there on the debate stage
Right.
instead of Hillary. But they've developed a voice box that gives you the same, exact same quality of voice. And people just don't have the imagination to figure out what's going on.
I think some people just don't even care. As crazy as
Well,
that may sound, I think just some people
yeah,
just don't even care, Jim.
sounds absurd, doesn't it? Don't even care. But then
That's
who the hell
yeah.
is the guy who's, the leader of what we tend to think is the most powerful nation on earth? But I believe actually that honor belongs to Russia today. They have far superior military equipment. They have the best anti sub torpedoes. They have the best anti ship missiles. They have best anti missile missiles. And their Satan II has 15 independently targetable warheads. One Satan II could take out all of France. Michael, it's just stunning.
And what do you think, Jim? Do you think we're going to see some action here in 2023? Do you think we're actually going to go and get involved in this war further than we already have? I mean, we've been supplying arms and we've been supplying food to them. We've been supplying everything to the Ukraine. I mean, it's insane. We keep spending money nonstop. They keep asking for more and more. It just never ends.
I think the war is petering out. Mike Adams had a piece a week or more ago about the impossibility of the West conducting a conventional war against Russia because we don't have the capacity to manufacture the munitions, the howitzer shells, the mortar shells, and the like. It would take us a year or even two to get our munitions production back into action. And by that time, we'd have already been overwhelmed. And the Russians are just learning so much. Since 2014, even including the Minsk agreements, they were merely a cover to allow Ukraine to have time to arm up. And we, among other states, gave them a tremendous amount of weapons of war. And yet Russia is shellacking them. That's the only way to put it. Ukraine doesn't have a chance. This war is all but over, Michael. It'll take a while to mop up. Let me add, I believe Russia has no alternative but to take all of Ukraine, which, of course, for hundreds of years had been part of Russia. The very idea of separating Ukraine from Russia came from Zbig Brzezinski in his book, The Grand Chessboard, where he suggested that Ukraine is the breadbasket of Russia, just as California is a breadbasket of America. And if you could pry Ukraine away from Russia, you would greatly weaken the bear. But it's working out just the opposite way. And incidentally, if anyone missed his magisterial statement of 24 February, Vladimir Putin laid out exactly the reasons for the necessity to intervene. Not only the prospect of Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, which was completely unacceptable, but the fact that they were planning an onslaught against the Donbass after the coup in 2014, where Victoria Nuland shelled out $5 billion in American taxpayer dollars. That's your money and mine, Michael, to bring about a coup to depose the Russia-friendly then president and install him with a puppet of whom Zelensky is the successor. And when you have perfidious acts like that, formal, solemn agreement treaties that even Angela Merkel has admitted were never going to be adhered to, how can Russia possibly have any faith in the West? After all, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, then Secretary of State James Baker declared the West would not expand 1 inch to the east. But think about it, NATO originally had 13 nations a day. NATO has 30, and they came from expanding, taking up all those formerly Soviet bloc countries that became sovereign and bringing them into NATO. I mean, this is just a grotesque violation of our agreements with Russia, where I think it's very obvious they can no longer place any faith whatsoever in the West.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. I think we sort of we got too involved in this sort of mess, Jim. We were basically dragged in, kicking and screaming, but I'm saying us as the people, not the government. I mean, they went willingly out there and got involved, and now we have a mess in our hands, and I feel like things will be escalating here rather shortly, Jim. You know, I was told by August we'd see conflict, but I'm starting to think we're going to see a little bit more action here coming up within a month or two. I might be wrong,
Oh
but you
yeah,
know, don't
we don't
hold,
have
yeah,
we
don't
don't have
quote
to
me on
wait
that.
till August. We don't have to wait till August, Michael. I think Russia will have long since sealed the deal with Ukraine.
I really wish we would have stopped supporting the Ukraine a long time ago. But it seems like it kind of seems like Zelensky has something over Biden here.
Well, it appears that there were geopolitical considerations here that it had to do with defeating the Nord Stream pipelines because they were ushering in an era of mutually beneficial economic interaction where Europe was getting cheap gas to run its industries and Russia was securing a source of revenue. There's nothing wrong about this. It was, however, going to create an enormous economic block. It was going to become apparent in short order that NATO was antiquated, that there was no necessity to buy expensive military equipment from the United States, including missiles, and the US felt it did not want to be on the outside looking in. It would have effects on the value of the dollar, which is going the way of the dodo anyhow, because the rise of the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperative are undermining the role that the dollar played since Nixon took us off the gold standard at the suggestion of Henry Kissinger with regard to oil transactions. And then you have the bizarre situation that Biden's trying to kill the gas and oil industry here in the United States after Trump had made us energy independent. And for those who may not know, oil is not a fossil fuel. Oil is naturally produced by Earth in endless quantities. So there's, the gasoline engine has been the primary entity for getting work accomplished in the West since the early 1900s. And the very idea of moving to green energy, solar panels, wind power, and electric cars just turns out to be a fantasy. We have one electric car after another just bursting into fire. The batteries are extremely expensive. If this is supposed to be an environmental boon, it has the opposite effect because acquiring all the precious metals that are required to build these engines involves something akin to strip mining at a massive scale and child labor involved. I mean, the airheads like AOC or Kamala Harris might think the Green New Deal is a good deal, simply don't have any comprehension or understanding. I did a series with Joe Olson, who's a highly qualified engineer, debunking the Green New Deal, which you can find on my blog at BitChute channel Jim Fetzer, Michael. And I really encourage everyone to do that. It turns out there's no correlation between the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere and the temperature of Earth. None. Lacking a correlation, there cannot be a causal relationship. So the whole idea is based on a ridiculous pseudo-scientific claim that appears to have been politically motivated and where CO2 actually has the effect of cooling the earth in 4 different ways and is indispensable to life, to the production of air and water. So we're being driven by lunatics who have diabolical schemes, who want to destroy modern civilization and return to a feudal era where they are living in their castles surrounded by moats, and those who are left are toiling as serfs and slaves in the field. That is the vision. David Irving got this right off the bat when the COVID pandemic reared its ugly head. And of course, we know the pandemic was fake. It was largely generated by taking cases of flu, of which there were 38 million the year before, and yet the successor year there were only 2,000 because they took 37,998,000 cases of flu and simply relabeled them COVID. But those who have looked at the data recognize there was no increase in the death rate in any age group from COVID. It's all occurred since they introduced the vax.
Right. And Jim, you yourself haven't contracted COVID yet, have you?
Actually, I went through what appeared to be COVID.
Yes, or what appeared to be.
I
Yes.
might actually be going through a relapse as we speak.
Oh my, you
Because
really?
I found
Mhm.
when I had this, I was very weak. I was so weak I couldn't get out of bed. And right now, I'm having trouble walking, Michael. It's very, very strange.
Yeah,
So
that's bizarre.
there's a wonderful hospital in the vicinity, not far from my home. I may have to check in and get checked out.
Oh shit. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
that severe there, Jim. I mean, I heard you a minute ago, and some people thought maybe you're just a little bit sick here, and that's what I thought. But it sounds like that's pretty serious if you're having trouble walking now. Never a good sign.
Yeah. I'm kind of floored because I have an important trip to make, and this is going to interfere. So I've got to get this squared away right away.
Yes, you need to load up on the vitamin C. If you can, Jim. I mean, lots of people out there care about you. They want you to take care of yourself, especially during these times where,
Yeah.
you never know what's going to go
Vitamin
on.
C, vitamin D too, and a whole lot of other stuff. Uh, I respond very well to Sudafed. So I've taken Sudafed and ivermectin, but I only began taking it today, and it's causing me to feel considerably better. But when you're wobbly, when you're walking, something is not right.
Yeah, you're feeling a
So
little
I-
funky out there.
yeah, so I'm going to have it checked out. So those
Yeah.
who are hearing that tremor in my voice got it right.
Yeah, they were right. And people are wondering how old you are, Jim. And
82.
he's 82, boys and girls. That's how
Yeah.
old Jim is. He's 82 years young. And Jim, no,
Yes.
no one ever believes it when, I tell people that you're 82. They say, no way. He doesn't sound like he's old at all. And he has an energy. He has all the energy in the world. And, I don't disagree. I know exactly what they're talking about. You definitely are full of energy and full of life, Jim.
Yeah, I've had fans say he doesn't look a day over 62, but the fact is 82, and you can hear it in my voice today.
Just now.
I've been noticing,
Just today, though, Jim. You don't
with
sound
these
like
self-travails, that
Yes.
it's definitely affecting my productivity.
right. And of course, we always take calls here. People want to ask questions, but
Sure.
the chat room, people want to ask there, but I don't really like that. If you want to call in, you're more than welcome to call in anytime you guys like. That number is 424-666-2425. Don't be afraid of the number. It's just a phone number, people. Don't be so superstitious. Call in whenever you'd like. We're here to talk to you. If you have any questions about anything that's going on in the world, we'd love to talk to you. Anything that's troubling your mind about what you're seeing in the news, all the false flags going on, all the distractions going on. It's nonstop.
Yeah.
So yes, if you have anything to add here, anything on your mind, definitely call in. Me and Jim are here for you.
Yes.
Yes, but
I
they're
love callers. Absolutely, 100%. I think this
Yeah.
situation in East Palestine is very bad and is indicative of the incompetence of the Biden administration. When you got a guy, Pete Buttigieg, in charge of the Department of Transportation, where his qualifications seem to be that he's had a number of rear enders, you realize we're in deep, deep trouble. I mean, the administration is basing all their appointments on sexual orientation and color of your skin, and whether you're a man or a woman, that's all unconstitutional. Michael, many Americans forget these anti discrimination laws apply to discriminating against whites, straight whites, not just blacks. You know, if you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of the color of your skin or your religion, or your ethnic orientation. That applies to whites just as much as it does to blacks. But the Biden and the zealous Democrats have carried it to a new extreme, and we're seeing the consequences borne out in a rather horrific fashion.
That's right. And of course, we do have someone in the chat room who I think wanted to ask you a question. I wish they could just call in, but if they have a question here, I'd love to, yeah, we'd love to get into it here with you. And yeah, the whole oil spill there, or oil spill, the whole chemical spill rather, really a terrible thing, really. And I feel bad for all the people out there in Ohio. And of course, they're saying, you go ahead, drink the water, it's fine. It's safe to drink, they're saying. That's what the government officials are telling the residents out there. And I think you got to be insane to believe that.
It's not safe to drink any more than the air in New York on 9/11 was safe to breathe, even though Christy Whitman said it was, but it was just a flat out lie. And that's what's going on here. This gas is staggering. It turns out now that we're having thousands of birds drop dead in the vicinity of Louisville because the gas plume is headed that direction. And it's killing all kinds of life, fish in the water, worms even. I mean, primitive forms of life are being killed here. And it turns out now there's a cluster of 3 of these train wrecks. For a friend of mine who's a highly reliable source with deep intel background suggests to me that they're threatening America with destruction if we keep going after the COVID jab and the deep state and the World Economic Forum, that if we resist, but the fact is we have no choice. We have to resist. We have to emancipate ourselves from the forms of subjugation to which we are currently being subjected. It is outrageous.
It really is. It is quite outrageous. And I believe that question from our friend named Killer Cannabis in the chat room says, question for Mr. Fetzer. Are we under attack with all the shoot downs of balloons and flying objects? Question mark. And all the trains being crashed with nasty chemicals? Or what is the distraction? He's asking.
I don't think the balloons are any more than a distraction, but I do think the train wrecks are very serious. Turns out in East Palestine, they actually did a movie about a chemical train wreck there that came out on Netflix about a year ago. And would you believe, members of the community were even extras in the film.
That's right.
And it was very much the same scenario.
That is called white noise, by the way.
Programming is just like The Simpsons had a show about planes hitting the Twin Towers. We get this stuff all the time because the cabal believes if they tell you what they're going to do in advance and you do nothing about it, then they no longer are responsible for the outcome. This is what's going on. I think the UFO business, Biden's supposed to be giving a speech right around now about UFOs. It's just a massive distraction from the state of the economy. Inflation is going out of sight. The food supply is being deliberately destroyed. There's a potential here for mass starvation on a scale never before seen in history, certainly not in the United States. And if they take out the electric grid, the estimates have it 95% of Americans will die from starvation. Michael,
Easily.
that's very sobering.
Oh, yes, easily. An EMP attack would really devastate this country. We've talked about that countless times here on the program. Lots of people thought, you talk about this an awful lot. And I always mentioned how vital the whole power grid is and how easily it can be taken down. And if that happens, we are completely screwed. I mean, Jim, I don't know about you, but I can't really make a lot of things with my hands. I'm not one of these people that could build all the, I'm not a carpenter. I'm not Jesus Christ, Jim. I can't do all these sort of things one would need to survive without all these sort of technological advances we have today. I mean, I'm just being honest with
Yes,
all of you out there. And I think we would
yes.
be completely screwed, just like a majority of Americans out there. If we do one day get hit with an EMP, God forbid that happens.
Well, there are reports that the DOD was behind the development of the jab and that the DOD was responsible for the balloon and it was actually putting down laser markers for an EMP attack on the United States.
Well,
And the
Jim,
idea that our Department of Defense itself
yes,
could be taking an active role in destroying the nation
right.
is virtually beyond belief. This is so difficult. When it was first suggested to me, I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. But there are enough reports now
Yes.
that it looks as though it may well be true.
Well, Jim, I was really hoping you wouldn't say that about the DOD, but I do have friends that are contractors as well, and they had told me, and oh God, I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but they have told me they said years ago they were jabbed way before the pandemic actually hit.
Years before they were jabbed?
Yeah,
Wow.
years before this virus was even spread out to us, some folks were already vaccinated, and it was a bit of a requirement for some. Believe it or
Huh.
not, believe it or not,
That's pretty damn
it is
disturbing,
a little,
frankly.
it's a bit of a bomb there, yes. And Lord, I hope they don't remove this video now, but this is what was reported not by one, but by many people that I talked to that are contractors. Wrap your mind around that, boys and girls. This was all planned ahead of time. There are no such thing as a coincidence these days.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
really frightening. And
Nothing like a coincidence. You're absolutely right.
there's more I want to
You're
add.
absolutely right.
There's more I want to add to that, but before I get into it even deeper here with you, Jim, we are joined by a caller. Let's see what they got in store for us here tonight. Caller, go ahead. You are live with myself and Mr. Jim Fetzer. Go ahead.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Jim. This is the
Yes.
depressed Hawaiian.
Oh, the depressed Hawaiian. This is a regular caller, Jim. He is actually
Excellent.
located in Hawaii, and he's sad.
Yeah, I'm stuck in
Go for it.
traffic right now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, we're waiting on you. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, well, I was just calling because about the comment about the EMP attack, about not believing that the DOD would actually do that. And I mean, if you just think back at 9/11, they freaking allowed planes to crash into our building and watch people jump out
Yes.
of the burning buildings. So they have no sympathy, no remorse, and they need something bigger than 9/11 to justify what they have planned. And so I do believe an EMP attack is definitely in the works, and they're going to pull it off. The DoD is going to do it, and I think that's what all these stupid balloons are about. Is they can just blame it on a balloon and say that, oh, we're not really sure where the balloon came from, but the EMP, it was carrying an EMP, and they're going to use that to be the blame of the collapse of the petrodollar system and the fiat system. The U.S. dollar, the whole U.S. economy is a joke, and it's built on a balloon or a bubble, if you will. And it should have popped a long time ago. And it's kind of funny that they're using a balloon it's almost like a metaphor. But I think they're going to do an EMP, and it could be attached to a balloon, and that way, no particular nation has to take the blame. They can just say, "Well, we're not really sure where it came from," or they could blame it on Russia or China or whoever, and take us into full-blown conflict. And by killing off millions or billions of people, that's less demand on the economy. So that will actually help out the inflation situation and whatnot. Sorry, that was a long rant, but what are your thoughts?
Yes, exactly. I mean, our government has been also stockpiling on anti-radiation sickness drugs, and I believe they spend 290 million on supplies. And when our government makes a purchase that big, you best believe there's action to back up that response. Let's just put it that way. They wouldn't just be buying it just to buy, just to be prepared. I mean, let's be honest here. Our government has allowed all kinds of things to occur magically. Just think of 9/11. Just think of COVID, what we went through. Think of what's going on now. We always have prior knowledge. Just look at what they say every time about these school shootings and just shootings in general, that they knew of the shooter way before. I mean, it's no accident that these things happen. Jim, your thoughts?
His point about 9/11 is impeccable because it was brought to his compliments of the CIA, the neocons in the Department of Defense, and the Mossad. It originated in the fertile imagination of Ehud Olmert and Bibi Netanyahu in the late 1980s, who wanted to figure out a way to get American forces into the Middle East to take out the modern Arab states. That served as a counterbalance to Israel's domination of the entire region. And they did it with all kinds of Hollywood-style techniques. But the Department of Defense was absolutely 100% involved in 9/11. So I think that's a very nice point to make.
Yeah, NORAD, just like they've been slacking on the balloons, they were slacking on 9/11 too. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens again. And sorry,
Yes.
one more thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm eager to hear yours. Here's another.
Yeah.
Sabotage. Everything is going as planned. As a near total blackout in the Jewish banking mafia who owns and controls the mainstream media is underway regarding the catastrophic environmental toxic event in the Northeast United States by the BlackRock and Vanguard Jewish-owned Norfolk Southern Railway disaster. The Jewish media offer only distraction about balloons they are calling UFOs. I think that's a very concise but accurate statement of where we are.
I mean, who would have known in 2023 we would be talking about UFOs this heavily? And most people, they either care very little or don't really care at all. And that's always been the uphill battle that all of us seem to face here in this sort of community where we talk about these sort of things, these sort of issues. Not everyone really likes to talk about these sort of things.
Well, of course not, because it's so serious.
It's very serious. Yeah.
And contradicts our most deeply held beliefs about the relationship between ourselves and our government.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, that's the problem, though. A lot of people out there, they say, and they hear these things when we talk about them, they say, well, it would take an awfully lot of people to pull this off, and no one leaking any information about X, Y, and Z. I hear that so much, Jim, and I think that's so dumb.
Yeah,
it's so silly to think that way.
The latest from Mike Adams, and he's pretty good on this stuff. The chemical weapon gas bomb ignited by government authorities in Ohio was, of course, both an act of deliberate terrorism and a crime against humanity and the environment. I spoke with an accredited hazardous materials emergency response expert who told me that these chemicals should never have been set on fire by authorities. I'm interviewing him later this evening and hope to bring you that audio tomorrow for full details. The burning of vinyl chloride, of course, releases phosgene, a World War I chemical weapon that maims or kills biological beings on contact. The train crash provided a perfect cover story for genocidal government agents to essentially detonate a chemical weapons bomb over prime farmland not far from heavily populated cities. The entire Ohio River basin will be impacted by the fallout for years to come, with massive die-offs already being reported in both soil and foliage, impacted with actual acid rain, hydrochloric acid, formed as the combustion products of vinyl chloride combined with water vapor in the air. I think that's exactly right. I think that's exactly right.
Oh, yes, no accident. It was no accident at all. Just think about all the food manufacturing companies that are out there in Ohio. There's a lot, by the way. For those who aren't familiar with that, look it up yourself. You'll see many reasons why these things are under attack. And it's not just there. I mean, this has been going on for a couple months now. Caller, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No. Your comments are completely appropriate, Michael.
I agree. And I think they have Biden in office so that they can destroy America and blame it on a senile old man. So do you think that America will still exist by the end of I mean, it doesn't really matter you could have a farm animal in the White House. I guess it really doesn't matter. But they want to have somebody in there.
That's funny.
To take the blame for what is coming. So do you think where do you see America by the end of Biden's
well, the problem is until we get rid of these electronic voting machines, the will of the people just doesn't matter. No one gave a damn about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and yet he got 81 million votes, the most of any candidate in our history, but nobody voted for him. You understand that the motto of Dominion voting machines is changing the way you vote, meaning really literally from Republican to Democrat. Until we get rid of the voting machines, we're helpless. It was overwhelmingly clear Trump was going to be reelected by a massive margin, just as for the 2022 midterms. I was looking at all the polls, and there were exit polls after as well. And Catholics and Hispanics and even white suburban women, which make up the core of the Democrat voting bloc, were going to the right. They did not like Biden. They thought the country was headed in the wrong direction. Where James Carville implicitly conceded the Democrats had stolen 57 House seats and 3 or 4 Senate seats. We should be in a completely different situation right now where we're starting to clean up all this mess created by the fake Biden and the Democrats, who are really under the thumb of, so far as I can see, Barack Obama, George Soros, and the Rothschild banking empire.
Right on. Well, hey, thanks for taking my call, and it was awesome speaking to you guys.
You got it. You just talked to a legend in Mr. James Fetzer here.
Yep. I hope that I can live as long as you, and my brain will still be working.
You got it. Thanks for the call, brother.
All right. You guys take care.
Mahalo. And there he goes, the sad Hawaiian. I mean, it's pretty wild. Even if you live in a tropical paradise like Hawaii, I mean, the world's troubles, the chaos of the world can still bring you down, Jim. That's what I've learned.
No question about it, Michael.
Amazing.
No question about it.
And, you just brought up voting. And I take it if Donald Trump definitely does run, and he's claiming he will run, and if his name does show up on that bill, are you voting for one Donald Trump, Jim, even after the whole Project Warp Speed and him sort of propping up the vaccine at rallies, but now he's quiet about it. He's never mentioned it again. But what do you make of Donald Trump for president, Jim? Do you think we should allow him to get another run here.
I absolutely do, Michael. Donald Trump has a grip on the American electorate unlike any I've ever seen in my lifetime. It exceeds the affection of JFK. I've never seen anything like it. And when you look at the extent to which the Democrat Party and their allies are going to try to guarantee he cannot run again, you recognize he poses a major threat to the establishment. He executed a brilliant hostile takeover of the Republican Party to make it a populist party. He gave it as a surging economy. He closed the border. He made us energy independent. I would like, and if I have the opportunity, will tell him that it would seal the deal if he were to repudiate the vax, explain that it was a colossal mistake, and discourage anyone from ever taking it again. I would like for him to do that. And I hope that it will come to pass because I agree that's the biggest thorn in his candidacy,
Right.
the sticky wicket
Yeah.
of the vax.
Yeah, that's the proverbial asterisk by his name, I guess it's safe to say, in terms of just some of the things that he did and took responsibility for. But I don't know if that was entirely his move. I sort of think he was kind of forced to do that.
I think it's entirely possible.
I think somebody was in his
It
ear.
would be good if we could get the full story.
I just think,
I do think you're. I think you're right, Michael.
I mean, you know how Donald Trump is. He's no genius. He's a normal guy. I don't think he knows much about the vaccine or anything like that, Jim. I just think somebody was actually in his head, and they got to him and just told him, "Look, you got to say this. You got to do this. This is what the president's supposed to do." I'm not trying to make up excuses for him, but knowing what I know, as we all know about Trump, I think he was kind of forced to do that.
Yeah, I think that's all very reasonable. Very reasonable inferences, my friend. I think you're right. Yeah. I do believe he was manipulated. This was a major disadvantage he had coming into the government as someone who hadn't previous government experience and who did not have a party, which it represents an administration in waiting. He did not have a whole lot of key players he could plug in because he'd never run a government before. And I think they took advantage of him and put in a lot of very bad actors. I mean, Bill Barr is an illustration where Bill Barr claimed there was no evidence of the theft of the 2020 election without even doing any investigation. I mean, the man's despicable. And yet Trump was, I think, played to believe that he actually would be a good attorney general when he turned out to be a catastrophe.
Someone in the chat room says Trump got millions from Pfizer, but so did every news network that got paid off by all these companies as well. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the list goes on. They all happily took the money. They all took the money.
I do think that Big Pharma has way too much influence over our government.
It's
insane.
It's
indispensable to sever that connection. To hell with Big Pharma. They're out deliberately murdering Americans.
Absolutely.
And when you have the CDC adding the mRNA vax to the child vaccination schedule, that means we're going to have tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of children whose lives are going to be destroyed because the CDC is merely the marketing arm, the PR arm for Big Pharma, and is not looking out for the health and welfare of the American people. It is disgusting.
Right. They want to mandate that here, basically. But some places in California, they want to end that. But we'll see what happens.
Well, putting on the schedule doesn't automatically mean school boards must adopt it, but in general, they follow the vaccine schedule. And would you
True.
believe we've gone now from like 54 vaccines to 72 vaccines kids have to have by the time they're 18?
Yeah, exactly.
It's absurd. It is absurd.
It really is. And for people like me and you, Jim, we haven't been vaccinated. We haven't been boosted or anything. So I'm led to believe that I have to get the vaccine, then I have to get all the booster shots as well. Like you said, there's various amounts of new boosters out there coming out all the time. And when I say these companies, they want you to get updated shots all the time. And Jim, I don't think that's healthy. To load up on all these
I
toxins. That's crazy.
I agree completely, Michael. And just as there's no correlation between global warming and the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, there's a perfect correlation between vaccines and autism. For the more vax, the more autism, the less vax, the less autism. Some projections have it that half our kids will be autistic by 2050.
Well, I mean, you don't have to go.
My inference is companies like that idea because autistic kids are less bored with repetitive activities and could make, more robotic-like employees who aren't going to complain about benefits and wages. So I think it's a very bad situation.
It is a very bad situation, and I have a very distasteful joke when I say that all of us here on the internet have some form of autism. That's kind of what the internet does to all of us here. And of course, I mean that in a joking manner, but those out there who have kids that have autism severely, I understand that happens. That happens. It's a sad thing, but yes, Jim, I think by 2050, I think we're going to see a lot of people legitimately having autism for sure, especially those out there in Ohio now.
Yes.
Sad.
Yes, Michael, absolutely.
It's pretty sad. And I'm sure you've seen plenty of videos online of people out there in Ohio showing footage. I saw some woman throwing rocks out there on the lake. And the water is this rainbow-looking color. And I'm just wondering, why is this lady even by that lake? She should be very far away from that water, not get any on her. I just thought that's a pretty dumb move there by that woman there.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of ignorance about this fact. You got government covering it up and giving reassuring statements. But I think the situation is extremely serious. And if this was a deliberate act, then I think we're all in deep trouble.
That's another false flag.
The fact is the Biden administration is populated by incompetents who are up there because of their color, their skin, or their sex, or their sexual orientation, and not whether they can manage the responsibilities of the offices with which they're being entrusted. Pete Buttigieg being a perfect example.
Right, and another comment here comes from someone in the chat room named Blue Sky. They say, wouldn't Trump understand Big Pharma is not in the best interest of humanity? How can he be that ignorant? We're not that ignorant. That comes from Blue Sky in the chat room. And again, I think Trump has been misled, been given false information since the beginning, most likely. Again,
I do think this is the major obstacle to his re-election. I believe he might very well pull it off in spite of it. I do think Ron DeSantis is a very strong guy for the future.
I like him too.
I do think Carrie Lake is going to become a very strong guy. So
Carrie Lake, you said she's going to become a strong guy. Is there going to be a transition here?
Yeah, I mean a strong candidate.
Okay.
Of course.
I was going to say, is Carrie Lake turning into a tranny, Jim? You're getting me worried there.
I certainly hope not. She's a wonderfully attractive, vibrant, intelligent woman,
Oh,
and we
well,
need more of them.
well, Jim, I agree
I
with
do.
you, but it would do wonders for her career if she would transition into a man. And I'm joking, but it might work for her career. It's what Hollywood
Yeah,
likes. You never know.
yeah, yeah.
Good
I
Lord.
agree. I
Oof.
agree.
My
I do
goodness.
think, by the way, that Trump is going to run with Tulsi Gabbard.
That'd be a good run. Yeah, both of them would be great together, in my opinion. It's too bad that Trump and DeSantis can't come to terms. I mean, if those two would see eye to eye, they would become a power force, a powerhouse, rather.
Yes, yes.
But the egos on both men won't allow that to happen, unfortunately. That's my
Yeah, no,
opinion.
I
Maybe I'm
thought.
wrong.
Yeah, no, I have thought Trump DeSantis, but obviously it can't happen as long as they're both residents of Florida. So the sign that would be the tell is if Trump were to change his residence to New York City, since obviously the governor of the state can't change his residence out of the state.
My goodness. And Jim, once again, I hate to go back to this, but earlier, we were talking about the Ukraine and the fact that the media even put out this story here about the U.S. telling the Ukraine that it won't send any long-range missiles because it has a few to spare. I don't think that's anything that we should be reporting out there to the world, Jim. That we have a lack of missiles here in this country. I don't think that's a smart move. I mean, the whole world's watching this shit, and yet we're telling them, "Oh, we don't have that many missiles." That's crazy.
Michael, I think the whole war thing is winding down.
I
We
hope
have
so.
Germany now declaring it's going to send fewer Leopard tanks. I don't believe the Bradleys we promised Ukraine will ever get to Ukraine. They have a lot of design defects, including a filter on the engine that can only last for 15 minutes in a dusty environment and then requires being taken back to a garage to have it fixed. I mean, this is so typical of American military equipment that they cut corners and they produce inferior equipment and then they benefit from maintenance contracts that double their profits.
And Jim, as we wind down here, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I know you are a little under the weather here. And I mean, I can easily talk to you for another 2 hours easy here, but we don't have that much time. Time is always against us, Jim. But again, recently, Jim, I bring this up to you every now and then, but I got to do it again. Once again, I watched that interview with you on Bill O'Reilly's show.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I still can't believe it.
He was a nasty guy.
He was a jerk to you.
Yeah.
And so was Hannity.
Well,
I mean, shame on Hannity. You look at him now. I'm wondering if he still feels the same way about 9/11. I wonder if he's still feeling that same way as he did back when you were on the program the first time around. I know his tune has changed over the years, but in terms of 9/11, I wonder if he still believes the official narrative like so many other Americans still do, which is bizarre to me, but that's the majority of people out there. That's the demographic that we need to get to, Jim. Those with their heads in the sand, the lights are on, but no one's home. Those sort of people.
yes, you make good points, Michael. You make very good points.
Yuck. My God. Well, Jim, it's always an honor and pleasure to have you on this program, Jim. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Things just passed on by. It went down faster than Building 7, I would say, Jim, here on the program.
Well, Michael, I always enjoy interviews with you. I think you're a wonderful host, and I look forward to a return in the near future. Let's not put it off so long.
You got it. You got it, Jim. Always a honor and pleasure, and I will talk to you on the other side, my friend.
Thank you, Michael.
You got it, brother. Take care.
You too.
And there you have it, boys and girls. That was the one and only Mr. Jim, the Freight Train Fetzer. And, we hope he feels better. I mean, I could have talked to him a little bit longer here, but I started feeling a little bad. He's not feeling so well. And it's like, I don't want to feel like a jerk dragging him on and on here on the program. But yeah, we were here for a short time, not a long time, but a good time nonetheless. And I appreciate all of you out there hanging out with me here tonight. Those of you that come over from the Real Deal Media, those of you that were watching World at War with our boy, Mr. Dean Ryan, we love Dean very much. And yes, we love you, Jim, very much as well. And, he'll go back and he'll watch the show and he'll enjoy it again. And I hope all of you enjoyed the program too, those of you here on YouTube. And if you're wondering, yes, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back live tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, those of you that are new. The first time listeners out there, those of you who just discovered this program, don't be shy, subscribe, and call in. We'd love to talk to you. We would. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. It's a little scary, but you'll get used to it. You'll get used to the voice. You'll be less intimidated here. It's all good, I promise. It's all good. And my God, those of you out there in Ohio, I don't even know if we have listeners from Ohio, but I wish we did. I wish we could talk to someone that lived close by the whole drama out there. We need someone out there. We need boots on the ground out there to report in here from Ohio and let us know what's going on. You can't really trust the media at all. And, how can you blame me or anyone else for not trusting the government, especially after finding out that Twitter paid to censor Americans and promote propaganda? All things that all of you out there know. And, we'll talk a little bit more about all these sort of things as we go on here. And those of you that catch the show, the podcast rendition of this program, much respect to you. And of course, those of you out there in the chat room right now chatting away, much love and respect to you. And so much to talk about here. But again, time is not on our side. And again, I do want to also let you guys know that I have joined forces with Dean Ryan and the great folks at realdealmedia.tv. Definitely go check out the programs out there. Definitely subscribe to his channel out there on Rumble. realdealmedia.tv. All the links are there. And yes, much love to all of you out there. We'll do it again on the other side, boys and girls. Always a honor and pleasure to be here. My name is Michael Deacon, reporting to you live from Hell Centro. And yes, look at the logo there on YouTube. That's Real Deal Media. I do like that logo, by the way. Very nice, very simple, very clean, very awesome. Yes, that's realdealmedia.tv. And again, much respect to Dean Ryan out there. And of course, much respect to Jim the Freight Train Fetzer. A great man, a great man. And tomorrow we'll be back live. So remember to hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side, boys and girls. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.